As twilight kissed the horizon and stars began to peek through, Will stood at the helm of his nimble English vessel in the churning waters of the Channel, or small ship, amidst a sea that mirrored London's foggy mornings, but was now filled with restless anticipation. The night air carried whispers from afar. Murmurs and rumours spoke of an approaching Spanish Armada, their crescent-shaped forms slicing through the darkness like shadows at dawn against a backdrop, where even moonlight seemed reluctant to tread upon this fateful journey's commencement. Will could hear his own breath as it escaped him in short bursts. He watched with hawkish eyes, barely blinking despite the choppy water that licked at their edges and threatened a constant baptism of salt water against weary flesh. His thoughts were not for himself alone, but echoed Queen Elizabeth's words, her nation bracing itself under her command, as she stood resolute before men in velvet, rallying them with speeches meant to steel the hearts that beat beneath chainmail and doublet alike. Yet nowhere did his gaze fall upon such regal presence. It was just him and Will's steady hand on the wheel, steadied by years of service, but trembling ever so slightly under this weighty prelude to what history would forever remember as a titanic confrontation at sea between two world powers. The tension aboard his vessel might have been palpable in any other circumstance. Even the rookie sailors on deck were tightly knit, their expressions etched with concern and duty that came to define English maritime life under threat of Spanish wrath, or nation hell-bent on reclaiming its former glory upon Europe's waves. Will pondered silently over what Elizabeth had once said in a speech now engraved into the collective memory, not just as words, but as an unspoken prayer for protection and courage. "I know it will be all against us," she declared with fire undimmed by her command of voice or presence. On this night, when fate was so decidedly upon them both, Will's own future within the grasp of unknown tomorrows, England's destiny hanging precariously in balance between might and right, their thoughts could not escape reflections on the tactics being whispered among commanders. Fire ships were to be deployed, small vessels set alight with a purpose that burned brighter than their flickering flames against an English fleet, unaccustomed yet resilient in its defence of Protestantism and freedom, as these fiery couriers would ride the tempestuous sea winds towards disruption. Will's mind wandered briefly to his own home, a modest thatched cottage tucked away from prying eyes within a village where every man knew each other's tales and fates were often interwoven with shared meals, or the local alehouse banter as much about politics, religion, and war. His heart was heavy for his kinfolk, who might soon find themselves ensnared in this struggle that seemed to stretch far beyond mere territorial discord into a clash of beliefs or contest, where every rower's stroke could whisper prayers or pleas before the gods they each believed were watching over their fates. The water, once his playground, as he navigated its depths in calmer days to provide for England's harvest and hearth, with fish caught from these same waters, now served as a stage upon which might rest either salvation or ruin, a theatre of the world where every man was but an actor playing their rôle, whether they stood on deck under stars, unseen by those within his own country, who still thought themselves distant. Will steered with care through gentle swells and sudden drops that lured sailors to dream upon waves, as if these rolling undulations were nature's attempt at consoling the weary spirits of men about to embark on an odyssey fraught not just with peril, but profound consequence. The crescent fleet ahead grew larger in his wakeful mind's eye, a formidable sight that spoke more power than any cannon's roar could hope to match, or testament as much to mankind's ambition and arrogance as it was an assertion of divine right, which seemed at times almost blasphemous in the face of God's own creation. As his ship joined others for a night watch change under moonless skies that refused even their silhouettes distinction from one another against England's sombre heavens, Will felt himself part of something far greater than any single vessel or nation. As Will stood upon his ship's deck, with a cup of steaming tea in hand, or modest comfort provided by England's bountiful harvest, courtesy of its vast seas and generous land, and his moon was nowhere to be seen. The sea appeared as an endless ebony carpet under the stars above, which had long been obscured since his last journey began months ago across treacherous waters that spoke in languages older than time itself. But here, on this night of restless change and silent watches beneath England's summer heavens, even darkness seemed to pause its eternal dance for a brief respite or momentary ceasefire between the world above and below his weathered vessel. He looked around at those gathered like spectres upon their own ships that now shared in this nocturnal vigil. men whose faces told stories of hardship, determination, hope, despair, as well-tempered souls with lives untold before they set sail into the unknown, into history itself. Their eyes held a glint of adventure and fear alike for what lay ahead, an odyssey that promised salvation or ruin upon these unforgiving waves, where every man was but one actor in this grand theatre, playing his role whether on deck under stars, unseen by those within England's own country, who thought themselves distant yet bound to the outcome of their shared endeavour. Will took a deep breath and let it out slowly, as if he were drawing upon an invisible wellspring that lay hidden beneath tumultuous water's source for calm in his seasick heart, reminding him why they had embarked on this perilous journey, to seek what was lost or perhaps never found before. As the crescent moon refused even their silhouettes distinction against England's sombre heavens, and as men shuffled about with hushed whispers that blended into a symphony of shared anticipation, Will thought back on his life up until this berry pointer tapestry woven by threads both golden and dark. He remembered the first time he set foot upon these rolling undulations of water, how it seemed as if nature itself was consoling him for dreams about reaching beyond one's own horizons, where destinations were not just places but possibilities, birthplaces of ideas that would forever alter worldviews. It had been a time when the sea appeared to Will like an unopened book before which lay infinite tales etched in salt water and sunken treasures alike. His life's purpose seemed as simple then, though he knew not yet how complex it was destined to become. But here, on this night of nocturnal vigils, with men who had once been strangers now became comrades united by fair collective soul navigating through the treacherous waters that would test their mettle and wills alike, challenging them not just to survive, but also confront humanity's own hubris against a world so vast it seemed almost divine in its mystery. The crescent fleet ahead had grown larger with each passing voyage Will took upon these same unpredictable waters. Yet tonight they felt like an assembly of guardians, standing as sentinels amidst the waves that were both creator and destroyer, the very embodiment of mankind's ambition, which at times seemed to verge on arrogance against God's own creation. Will watched these men with eyes full of shared purpose. They had not come here only for themselves, but as part of something far greater than any single vessel or nation, and tonight under the cloak of England's sombre heavens felt like an affirmation that their journey was indeed a pilgrimage towards some profound consequence of kind which could alter history itself. The crescent fleet ahead seemed to promise salvation in its vastness, but also bore within it threads of ruin, for the sea had no mercy on those who underestimated her power or faltered at critical junctures when calm appeared upon waves that were anything but friendly waves which lured sailors into dreams while their weary spirits fought against both physical and metaphysical exhaustion. As Will joined the others for a night watch change, he felt an unspoken camaraderie amongst these mariners, each man with his own story to tell, but sharing in common one of relentless pursuit or search that transcended boundaries, whether they be geographic or personal, and which would etch their tales into the annals of time. The ship he now found himself aboard was a steadfast companion, its timbers groaning beneath his feet with each shift in weight as if whispering secrets only to those who cared enough to listen. As Will settled into his bunk after completing the night watch change with newcomer Elias and seasoned sailor Joners, he found himself lost in thought about their shared voyage search for an ancient artifact rumored to hold power that could shift empires. The ship's steady rhythm provided a comforting backdrop as his mind wandered through memories of the past weeks at sea when each encounter had been more than just another meeting. It was part of something larger, like notes in symphony playing together for an audience with destiny itself. The crescent fleet ahead appeared to be their promised salvation, or perhaps even harbingers or test from history's mysterious guardians, that only those who possessed true purpose and resolved should proceed deeper into the abyssal waters of time travel law they were chasing after this night. Will couldn't help but marvel at how fate had steered them to embark on such a perilous journey, not just for themselves or their nation's glory, though that was an inevitable outcome, no doubt, but as part of something transcendental and universally humanistic, the pursuit of knowledge itself. As he drifted into sleep with his thoughts adrift on a sea of possibilities within dreamland, Will pictured himself standing before kings and counselors in far-off courts, offering them insights from an era when myths walked among men, telling tales that wove together the very fabric of history. His heart ached for such times, but also thrilled at what they might discover a legacy etched not just on stone or papyrus, but within every soul brave enough to seek it out. In his dreamt-up future visions, Will saw himself unearthing relics that shifted paradigms and mended societies torn asunder by ignorance. Artifacts of such power were said to be rare, like the phoenix ash in a desolate wasteland seemingly extinct, but holding within its remnants and embers promise for rebirth. As dawn approached, casting soft golden rays through the portholes that peppered the ship's wooden frame, Will felt as though he were embarking on his first voyage to this very moment or journey where every challenge conquered and mystery unraveled would lead them closer not just to their goal but toward a newfound understanding of humankind's place in history. His reverie was broken abruptly by the sharp crackle over the ship's comm. All hands on deck. The sudden command snapped Will awake as all his comrades scrambled to heed their leader's words and gather at designated points around the vessel, a routine practice when unforeseen events required immediate attention. The captain emerged from below decks with news that sent ripples through every heart above 0921 ing. We've been spotted. A rival fleet is on our trail. They are drawn to us like moths to a flame, or perhaps more fittingly for our circumstances like salmon returning home. The crew exchanged glances of understanding and resolve as history whispered in the captain's voice, reminding them that their search might soon end not with discovery but confrontation. Will felt his pulse quicken at this turn, yet remained steadfast within himself. He was part of something much greater, a pilgrimage through time where each step brought new lessons to learn and danger spaced together as one unbreakable chain, all in pursuit of a truth that promised far more than mere material wealth or national pride. As the crew set about preparing for potential engagement, while keeping their mission at heart firmly within reach, Will reflected on how his life had transformed from mundane existence into an odyssey across epochs, or journey where every sunset could herald either a triumphant return to present day or another chapter in humanity's grand narrative. And though the crescent fleet that loomed ahead held ominous portents, Will knew their spirits of discovery were fortified by shared trials and unwavering camaraderie, or brotherhood forged not just on timbered decks, but in soulful understanding amongst companions who had transcended ordinary life's boundaries. As the first light broke over England's horizon, painting it with hues of hope against encroaching darkness, Will felt a serene assurance that their voyage was indeed guided by fate's intertwined path, laid out not only for personal glory, but as an offering to posterity itself. This night would be remembered when history's pages were inscribed and the legacy they sought held its weight in gold. Tom, the first light of dawn, kissed the English shore as if to reaffirm promises made with night's last embrace. Will, whose heart had always been a sea that knew no anchor save for his convictions and camaraderie among his fellow adventurers aboard the Seraphim, fair stout vessel carrying them through time on an icy beyond the ken of ordinary life, sat by the wooden table, tracing patterns in moistened soil with a finger. The crew had been preparations for unknown skirmishes since midday, when shadows grew long and whispers turned to murmurs about what lay ahead, an encounter that could very well decide their fate as much as it promised glory or doom, depending on the hands of fortune, which seemed ever capricious. But Will had grown fond not just of his crew, but also of this particular morning, one where he felt most himself, a man no longer defined by mundanity, but rather enriched with purpose and tales that would be retold in ages to come, if only for the richness they carried. It was on such days as these, when history seemed almost tangible beneath his fingers, and within earshot of their heartbeats, or symphony accompanying them through time's embrace. Yet Will knew that today would bring a test unlike any before, one where courage might be needed not just for battle, but to maintain the essence they had all become on this journey, warriors and scholars alike who sought truth with every step forward or backward in time's vast expanse. As he spoke quietly among them about their shared history, the battles won, loves lost, lives lived across different ages, Will felt the weight of his own story become part of a grander tapestry woven by countless hands and hearts through centuries untold. They were not merely participants in this moment, but custodians tasked with safeguarding knowledge that could illuminate or obliterate civilizations to come if misused, as had been done before them, making the potential encounters ahead all the more dire, yet steeped in responsibility. Their mission was clear. These saw a relic of ancient times rumored to be hidden within an era-long past, one that could unlock secrets about humanity's journey through history itself, or become tools for manipulation by those with less than noble intentions. With each passing day, The horizon seemed both closer and yet further away as they delved deeper into epochs never touched before. The crew had been inseparable since their fateful meeting aboard a ship that arrived on English shores during England's most enlightened age, a time when ideas flourished like flowers blooming after rain, and the thirst for knowledge was as vital to existence as air itself. It started with an accidental discovery of strange devices amidst old ruins, where Will first met Amelia, a fellow seeker whose brilliance in understanding chronomarkets or field-blending commerce with temporal anomalies had drawn him like moths to flame. As time's fabric unraveled and rewove itself around them, they encountered other souls similarly touched by fate. A stoic blacksmith who had once shaped swords for kings, but now fashioned tools that could bend moments or mend the weary. An alchemist whose potions extended life as though playing with eternity's own thread. The camaraderie amongst these diverse individuals strengthened Will and his crew, binding them not just by their quest for knowledge, but a shared understanding of each other's essence that transcended the mere factual histories they encountered along this journey through time. They had learned to read between lines unwritten in books, or language understood only when hearts beat together with courage enough to face trials across ages, whether facing down tempests or malevolent forces who sought their mission's success for reasons of greed and power rather than enlightenment. Their nightly rituals aboard the Seraphim had become a fusion of celebration and solemn remembrance, their time when tales were shared, wisdom passed on from one generation to the next within arm's reach as they slept in bunks below deck, while Will lay resting just beyond their earshot. With each sunrise that followed an uncertain night spent traversing through epochs not meant for mortal souls, whether meeting with ancient Greeks debating philosophy under starless skies or witnessing the birth of revolutions in distant lands, where ideas sowed seeds of change beyond their wildest dreams, crew's bond strengthened, becoming a tapestry woven from threads that could have in Chapter 5 of our tale aboard the Seraphim, where time's fabric was as much a part of daily life as it is to us now sleeping beneath its sails. We find ourselves in the embrace of an ancient world not meant for mortal eyes. It had been but 3 weeks since Will and his crew last shared their experiences around the flickering campfire that seemed like eternity away from our modern comforts here on deck, with the Seraphim's steady hum beneath us as it glided through time's ocean currents, powered by a clockwork heart of untold complexity. Our journey took an unexpected turn when we arrived at the golden age of Renaissance Florence, their place pulsating with artistic brilliance and scientific inquiry that breathed life into history books as if they were mere fairy tales to this crew, who had seen far more than most can fathom in their one single lifespan. The vibrant cityscape greeted us at first light. The sun caressed cobblestone streets with a gentle touch that spoke of prosperity and culture intertwined like lovers' hands on parchment-thin days, where every breath seemed to carry whispers from ancient conversations. The air smelled distinctly of oil paints mixed with fresh pastures, scent both foreign yet oddly comforting after navigating through centuries that often lacked the very fragrances we associate with life's simple pleasures back home. Will found himself inexplicably drawn to Leonardo da Vinci, whose mind spanned beyond art and into realms of engineering marvels, far ahead for his time, a man who sketched flying machines as if they were mere drawings on a palette rather than dreams that might one day take flight. Will shared with the mastermind inventor tales from their travels, stories not just of wonder but also cautionary echoes through eras where ambition had led to shadows and hubris often preceded downfall, or mirroring in time's grand hall for those willing to listen closely enough between heartbeats. As days melded into nights with the predictability of a clockwork mechanism itself, our crew encountered an unforeseen test within Florence's embrace, the Pazzi conspiracy, dark undercurrent that sought not just power, but also control over creative minds and divine inspiration. We learned from hushed conversations in alleys where echoes painted more than shadows. We saw the fragility of society when it balanced on a knife edge between brilliance and destruction, as Da Vinci himself narrowly escaped with his life, a testament to resilience that no history book could ever fully capture. Evenings aboard the Seraphim became more intimate. The crew gathered round an oil lamp's glow in our shared quarters, where tales of Florence spun a tapestry richer than any they'd experienced before, a symphony played by voices weaving through epochs, each note resonant with emotion and truth. It was here that Will taught his companions the delicate art of interpreting silence as much as speech, to read between lines not written on parchment, but etched into experiences shared across time's vast expanse, a lesson vital for their continued journey through history's unfathomable depths. Weeks passed, and our voyage drew us next towards the cliffs of Dover during the tumultuous era when nations were born from ambition as much as they sought peaceful prosperity, an age where explorers looked to horizons not with fear but with fervent hope that crossed oceans for new lands. It was in these moments, against storms raging like mythic beasts themselves, their roars echoing tales of heroism and loss intertwined, as one that our crew found solace beside the stoic English Channel waters reflecting moonlight on waves' relentless dance towards dawn's embrace. Beneath sail-clothed skies we watched from a weather-worn rock where history unfurled itself like sails in wind. Witnesses to tales of conquest and discovery whispered into the salt air as if they were passing secrets between old friends, or time when sea's vastness was both ally and adversary. As our own hearts beat with courage, we understood that each pulse carried forward legacies, whispers from those who had braved these waters before us, a reminder to tread not just upon land, but through the very essence of human endeavor, that which binds souls across time's relentless march. Within this chapter, we found, as we settled into our small enclave upon a rock jutting from England's coastline at Dover, the wind sang lullabies through my hair, while the waves whispered secrets of ancient mariners to me. Night after night under sailcloth skies had drawn us closer, not just as members of this crew, but also in spirit, each one a guardian and keeper of tales that danced upon ocean breezes, carried by our sails towards lands unknown. It was amidst the echoes within these cliffs where I first laid eyes on Eleanora, last born from English soil, yet with an adventurous soul mirroring our own, as much as hers were of this land we called home now and long ago. Her gaze held stories that rivaled those told by fireside. Her laughter rang like chimes in the breeze. Through these very same cliffs her melody, so sweet it seemed to beckon us further along our journey's path with a promise of discovery yet unseen. With every Sunner Zero WN voyage across this sea that had witnessed empires rise and fall, we carried within ourselves the dreams of men who sought new worlds beyond their own horizons, or hunger for knowledge as fierce in our hearts as it was when caravels first cut through uncharted waters. The promise Elena offered became a beacon that guided us forward, her presence weaving into each tale spun under the watchful gaze of constellations, painting pictures across this endless night sky with tales yet to unfurl their wings upon our sails as they reached for dawn's golden glow. We spent days charting courses that led not just through water, but also along trade routes where cultural treasures were exchanged like the most precious of jewels. Knowledge and understanding passed from hand to heart, shaping us into more than mere sailors on these vast waters. We became travelers across time itself. Each port visited was a doorway back in our own age, as much as it offered glimpses into others where the past lingered like perfume upon ancient stones and whispered of days when humanity's footprint first pressed indelibly against history's unfathomable depths, echoing tales once lived. Our journey along these storied waters soon led us to encounter souls who had braved the seas themselves, mariners whose eyes held storm clouds and starlight alike. Their stories were sung into our ears with reverence as if we stood in halls of marble, listening raptly. We learned from them not just where they came, but also what remained to be discovered within ourselves, for each tale was a compass that pointed towards introspection, a reminder that the essence of human endeavor lies within our shared heartbeats across time's relentless march and its myriad horizons. As we ventured closer in spirit as well to Eleanor's story, I found a kinship with her soul. She was an explorer at her core despite the birthright of soil from which she hailed, her navigator whose compass always pointed towards discovery and understanding beyond these realms. In this journey where seas became mirrors reflecting our own humanity back to us, we came upon a ship bearing scars like battle-worn shields. It had weathered the fury of Poseidon's temper as much as any knight's armor in ancient tales or testament that even amidst turmoil and loss, there existed resilience born not only from survival, but also a yearning to carry forth legacy whispers forward into perpetuity. Our shared experiences aboard this wayfaring vessel became the threads with which we wove our own tapestry of dreams that depicted both where humanity had been and where it wished to go. as vast in scope as these very waters themselves were deep within their heart. In Alina's eyes lay reflections not just of herself, but also the countless souls who shared this voyage with us. She held a mirror up to time that showed both shadowed valleys we'd traversed and towering peaks awaiting our ascent, all while her spirit shone like an eternal flame upon seascapes where myth intertwined indistinguishably with reality. As the moon traced its path across this nocturnal canvas nightly, we found ourselves at a portage of sorts or place that whispered to us through salty air and rustling sails about times when explorers sought not conquest but communion, where seafaring souls exchanged stories as freely as dawn approached on our seventh day at sea and painted soft hues over Alina's dreaming face. We felt an inexplicable tug within us, or magnetic pull towards a shared history that lay dormant beneath waves of azure calmness around the ship. It was then she whispered her tale. Legends speak of this very route once taken by mariners who sought not just to discover new lands, but also unite different worlds in harmony. Her voice, a melodic blend that seemed both ancient and serenely comforting, began the story. It was an era when seafarers were explorers driven by curiosity rather than conquest, or time before humanity's relentless push for dominance over others had taken root on these very waters we sailed upon today. Our journey took us to a legendary isle known in hushed tones as the Garden of Eden reimagined, where nature thrived untouched by industrial strides and human folly. Its existence only hinted at within faded maritime charts that Alina discovered hidden beneath creaking wooden floorboards. The island was a verdant utopia cradled in the ocean's embrace, or place where trees bore not just fruit, but stories of old souls who had once lived their lives and passed into legend themselves, tales entwined with every leaf that rustled beneath Illinois' tender touch. It was here they learned to listen for voices carried by sea breezes from lands near and far, a testament to the interconnectedness among all voyagers of history who had ever graced these waters under a shared sky, their dreams as boundless as the horizon stretching before them. In this mystical haven where shadows danced with light across undulating sands that whispered secrets long forgotten by time itself, Elena encountered an enigmatic figure. His eyes mirrored depths of ancient knowledge, and a heart resonant with compassion, or guide who spoke in riddles, wrapped within the cadence of old seafarer law. This keeper knew tales not bound to pages or paintings, but lived ones, breathing echoes from souls past, still yearning for guidance even as their whispers faded into oblivion with each passing wave upon our ship's hull. Elena listened intently. The keeper unveiled a path that wove through time itself, an expedition of sorts, where those who joined would find not only an island, but also themselves intertwined within history's grand tapestry as participants rather than mere observers or conquerors, to learn and grow from shared human experiences. The call was one for unity, a pilgrimage seeking communion with nature's splendor, the legacy of civilizations that had once flourished in Edenic abundance, a return not just physical, but spiritual as well. With resolve firming within her heart, like steadfast sails against gusty winds, Elena shared this vision with those who listened to her tale. Imagine a world where our voyages are no longer about reaching distant shores for conquest or mere trade. It's about sharing in the journey of every soul that has cast anchor on these waves before us. As we gathered together, each person above 0 ard resonated with this call or symphony heard not through words but felt deep within their spirits. It was a consensus reached without dissent as our shared dreams unitedly steered the ship toward that fabled isle where time itself seemed to pause in reverence of nature's bounty and humanity's potential for harmony, with its own legacy whispered through ages past. Underneath a sky ablaze with twilight hues, we sailed into tales not yet written, or journey that promised revelations both personal and communal within the living history of these seascapes, where myth mingled effortlessly with reality's fabric. Elena's reflection in our eyes told stories as vast as her dreamscape. On this night, when stars whispered secrets to ancient mariners who had once charted courses by celestial light, we found ourselves at the precipice of a new chapter of voyage into uncharted waters, not just physically, but in our hearts and souls as well. Elena's voice softened further. Let us then cast aside shadows born from fear or greed. Let this journey be one where every heart aboard is the keel that guides, each dream a compass leading home to ourselves. As our ship approached an unfamiliar cove cradled by rolling waves and guarded by as we entered a dreamlike silence that settled upon our souls like sea foam on glassy shores, Eleanor's voice became not just her own but an echo of something timeless and primal within each heart aboard this vessel, a shared home amongst the waves. The night air was crisp with salt as it enveloped us, carrying tales older than memory itself. Every whispering wind seemed to hum a lullaby that spoke directly to our spirits intertwined in purpose beneath a sky where stars painted constellations of ancient mariners' aspirations and fears. It was then we came upon an isle as untouched by time as the sea had been, its shores whispering secrets through grains that sighed with stories left behind. Eleanor stepped ashore first, her eyes reflective pools of wonder mirroring the twilight's last blush. The island was a living archive. Each tree and tie-kissed rock resonated with histories, untold yet felt in every grain beneath our feet as if we were walking through time itself. As Eleanor traced her fingers along ancient carvings etched into the trunk of an age-worn oak, a sense of belonging washed over us. It wasn't just any tree but one that had stood sentinel during countless sunsets like this very evening, known under which we might find respite and revelation. We gathered around her as children once did their mothers in hushed reverence to hear the tales passed down, not by rote recitation or dry textbook prose, but through visceral narratives that danced on our tongues like songs of old. The tale began with a lone voyager who sought this very isle under starlight dimmed only slightly as day approached. With courage and reverence, he asked the sea for passage to lands unseen by modern eyes, or testament not just to his curiosity but also respect for nature's domain. It was an appeal heard in hearts across generations that had since yearned after this communion with Earth's raw beauty. The story wove through encounters of sea creatures thought extinct, where the wisdom of coral reefs taught resilience against life's stormy days. It was a reminder from these guardians to respect all forms of existence and understand their intrinsic value beyond mere utility or exploitation. As we listened in rapt attention under this timeless dome, Elena Porset, her voice now carrying the weight of centuries as she spoke with gentle authority, in times when humanity felt disconnected from its roots, remembering these stories is akin to finding one's way back home. We are but guests here. Let's tread lightly and learn humbly. Our hearts united in this sentiment or promise we made not just amongst ourselves, as travelers of the sea-bound pathways, but also with those who had come before us, to forge a future where such wondrous places remain untouched by greed or fear. The night deepened and crickets began their symphony alongside our ship's lantern, casting shadows that seemed as ancient at the sight of Eleanor's silhouette against this living fresco painted in nature itself. She stood beside me, hand extended to offer solace. In her touch was a bridge between worlds and times. From here, with these tales woven into our beings like threads through tapestry, shared narrative that fortified us as we sailed back across the waters under watchful eyes of constellations etched in history's skyline, carrying their wisdom to guide not just ourselves, but all who might learn this story and heed its call. In Eleanor's presence aboard our Veselphus haven for dreamers on earth-sea voyages alike, he realized that we had become the living embodiment of these tales, stewards entrusted with preserving their essence as they would safeguard a sacred grove. Let this journey be one where every heart aboard is indeed the keel guiding us to ourselves and back again. As dawn approached on its golden wings, when we finally cast anchor once more under watchful eyes of our shipmates, I knew that Eleanor's words had not just been spoken but lived within each soul. Let this journey be one where every heart aboard is the keel that guides us. And with a promise to return when hearts yearn once more for such journeys of connection and reflection, we whispered our farewells to an island that had become not just part of history, but as I slipped into slumber's embrace myself beneath Eleanor's watchful gaze, her eyes alighting upon me as if she alone could see the stories etched within our souls, drifted toward memories of a particular island, its shores kissed by history and mystery. It was here that we had first understood what it meant to be stewards not just of this vessel, but also of something timeless yet fragile. Culture intertwined with nature's own sacred narratives, as ancient trees stood guard over mossy temples where spirits once danced upon the earth in celebration and sorrow alike. On our first morning, Eleanor had us gather around a fireplace that seemed to have been here since before time itself began counting seconds, or hearth of stories rather than flames or smoke curling into whispers above it all as if keeping secrets for posterity themselves. She spoke then in hushed reverence about the isle where legends were not tales but truths, an island that held keys to understanding our shared human journey, binding us across seas and epochs with threads spun from mythology's very heartbeat. She had recounted how this place was a nexus of paths of earth beneath the footsteps of pilgrims who sought not just spiritual salvation, but also communion with history itself, as if walking through hallowed ground would bestow upon them wisdom beyond years or learning's confines. As Elena spoke, her voice took on an incantatory quality. It was a melody that wove the essence of this place into our very beings, her chorus joining past and present in harmonious song, where every note carried weight like leaden anchors dropped deep into memory's ocean. The island had been home to an ancient civilization whose legacy lived on not just through structures made by hands, but also etched deeply within the soul of those who walked its grounds, an unbroken thread that stretched from their golden age back to our own, woven intricately into a tapestry where each strand represented lives intertwined with this sacred space across centuries, and we had become part of it all. Through Alina's guidance and the collective reverence for these tales among us crewmates, I too felt my spirit melding to an ancient rhythm that seemed as old as time itself, her heartbeat shared by every soul of O0 art. Our days had been spent wandering through groves where trees bore fruits of wisdom rather than sustenance, their roots delved deep into soils rich with secrets, providing us a connection to the earth that transcended our own ephemeral existence, a reminder from nature itself about cycles and continuity. Elena would stand in silent communion before these giants of greenery as if they were ancient sages, sharing their longevity's tales with those who dared listen closely enough to hear them whisper back across the wind-worn paths underfoot. As night fell, we gathered around campfires where stories unfurled like tendrils, seeking light and offering of shared human experience that bridged our lives and past narratives into one collective saga without end or beginning. In these moments, by firelight's glowing gaze, I learned how tales could become as tangible to us all, shaping not just who we were, but also the journey upon which we found ourselves, a vessel of humanity navigating through currents both literal and metaphorical. Our sojourn on this island had been a pilgrimage backward in time. Eleanor's wisdom was our compass, her words painting landscapes within the mind's eye, where every step unearthed layers of civilization that once flourished here, a society whose legacy lay not only upon stone, but also echoing through these sacred grounds. They had crafted a world with artistry and reverence for nature's sanctity, living in harmony within this island's embrace as custodians themselves. It was their story that now resonated deeply into our essences after Elena shared tales woven from fragments of pottery shards found amidst the in Chapter 10 of our journey back through time and into understanding ourselves as part of a much larger tapestry. We settled beside ancient waterfalls that gurgled tales from deep within their misty veils, or symphony accompanying the leaner's narratives. As she spoke, with hands dusted in earth, where the foundations for great palaces once stood, and eyes reflecting ages of wisdom, our minds wandered through lush canopies that had been a sanctuary to generations past. Elena traced her fingers along remnants etched into stone tables, their messages, indecipherable but felt with certainty in the warmth they provided against skin still accustomed to cold touchscreens and synthetic textures of our era. With a tender sigh, she cradled one such relic closer, as if it were fragile glasswork from her own time, a bridge between past paints and intimate portrait within its grooves where history was recorded with silent permanence. Here we stand, Elena murmured to the untouched earth beneath our feet, where a civilization thrived upon principles of respect and coexistence. Her voice carried us forward through time as she regaled tales of festivals in honor of nature's cycless offerings made not with material goods, but reverence for life's interconnected essence. We journeyed to the heart where a grand library had once stood, its knowledge now silent save for Elena's voice bringing forth echoes that resonated within us as though we could hear her reciting ancient texts right from our lips, or shared consciousness between eras flowing seamlessly through narratives. In the still of nightfall, with campfires flickering like stars, stories unfolded layer upon intricate layer. Elinar's tales wove themselves into my being as I learned how these ancients had understood their transient nature within an eternal world or civilization that knew itself to be a mere moment in the flow of time. We traced paths along ancient stone walkways where inscriptions and statues stood guard over secrets untold but felt deeply embedded into our souls as we passed them by each day on this pilgrimage or communion with history that was both hauntingly beautiful and humbling. The air here seemed thickened with the weight of stories, where every gust carried whispers from a time when humanity's footprint had not yet imprinted upon these sacred lands to such an extent as it did now. As we delved deeper into forgotten temples that reached for heavens they once revered, a society whose faith was so profoundly intertwined with their identity. Elena recounted spiritual practices and rituals observed in awe by those who worshipped not just deities, but the very essence of life itself. We discovered gardens where botanical mastery yielded flowers that could heal wounds or invoke dreams, or testament to how these ancients had lived with nature rather than against it. The night we spent beneath a constellation-laden sky mirroring the one above us then became our canvas as Elena shared legends of gods and heroes whose tales were woven into every aspect of daily life, where myths provided comfort in times of sorrow or inspiration for celebratory feasts. We gathered around these stories like a campfire's embers that never seemed to die, their warmth permeating through the fabric of our shared experience as we listened and learned from Elinar's enlightened perspective, our guide, who walked among us not just in body but also spiritually, bridging worlds apart. One evening found me wandering alone along a path that wound stealthily between twin waterfalls, where the sound of rushing waters hummed an ancient melody I could almost hear resonating within my chest, a rhythm felt pulsing through veins as if it were blood coursing with tales untold. The verdant canopy above played a visual symphony that seemed to dance just beyond reach, and here in this sacred grove Elena imparted wisdom gleaned from the very earth itself. Her words tasted of rain on leaves and felt like sunlight filtering through dense foliage, or sensorial connection between narrative and nature. Our days became timeless as we stumbled upon vestiges that revealed a society's daily life, their artistry evident in the delicate pottery shards scattered amongst overgrown temple ruins where once they sought enlightenment or guidance, ere civilization, whose hands had molded clay and spirit into vessels of beauty, now left to crumble under as dusk embraced our sacred grove with a cooler touch and softer light. We found ourselves once again enveloped in Elinar's serene presence beneath an ancient willow whose leaves whispered secrets of resilience across time. Tonight's moon hung low like a guardian overlooking us, as if it too understood the gravity that tied our fates to this place, or testament written not by hand but woven into existence itself, where each fallen leaf told tales more vibrant than any pigment in the world's greatest canvases. Elena shared with me a dream she had of an ethereal being born from starlight and shadow. This creature was said to traverse between realms, her guardian spirit that protected stories like life-giving water for parched lips. In her vision, I too became the bearer of such narratives, understanding now how each word uttered in our presence had rippled through time itself. And as we spoke by Elinar's side beneath a canopy flickering with fireflies that seemed to dance just for us, she whispered legends into my ear, legends about the land before empires rose and fell upon its soil like seasons change on earth's face. Our nightly excursions became rituals of revelation as we sought out nature's echoes. Today led us to a small stone bridge that arched over the river with grace reminiscent of days when knights and maidens once crossed it hand in hand under watchful eyes. I traced my fingers along its moss-covered stones while Elena recounted tales where love was both shield and spirituality that shaped lives as much now as then, for stories are the alchemy through which humanity transmutes experience into wisdom. We ventured further, to a grove whose heartwood pulsated with an energy not felt since Elena's youthful days, when she first stumbled upon it, her place, where every leaf seemed woven from emerald silk, and the air shimmered like heat above summer pavements, inviting us deeper into its hallowed embrace. There we found a clearing that hosted an ancient tree, whose roots had sculpted pathways through soil as if to etch our shared journey upon earth's memoria, living testament of continuity amidst transience, where every crevice whispered tales older than time itself, each one nestled in the crook and hollow like treasures waiting for eager hands. The ancient tree cradled a heartwood carving that had survived centuries. It bore symbols unknown to modern eyes, yet spoke of unity between sky, water, earth, and fire, elements as essential now as they were then. In its presence, I'd understood how stories are the threads binding humanity's tapestry together even when patterns seem frayed by time's relentless hands. Each thread a legacy that must not be lost to obscurity, but instead cherished for their intrinsic value. In teaching empathy and understanding, a lesson Elena had shown me through stories of the civilization whose echoes resided within these stones. As night deepened, we wandered back towards our camp, where a symphony awaiting us was not composed by instruments but nature itself. Winds that carried voices from distant lands, and waters that hummed with untold histories as they lapped against the shore of dreams to chimera lullaby for those brave enough to listen. Elena shared an ancient chant, a melody whose notes were said to align hearts closer than words ever could. We joined in hesitantly at first, but soon found our voices blending with hers, as if channeled from the world's very soul, a harmony that transcended language and bound us together. Our shared journey came full circle when a sudden silence fell upon us, not of absence or fear, but reverence for all we had witnessed. History's embrace was no longer confined to pages, nor whispered through ages. In Eleanor's learned retelling, it lived within our hearts and pulsed with the lifeblood that flowed beneath our feet. We gathered around a bonfire, its flames casting dancing shadows upon faces etched by wonder, as we shared stories not just of people who walked these lands before us, but also reflections on ourselves, or narratives unfolding like petals in bloom under the watchful moon's glow that crowned our campsite with celestial adornment. And there, amidst echoes and ashes, beneath a tapestry of stars woven from time's own thread, we celebrated life, or celebration not loud, as we gather around that bonfire whose embers held warmth like a mother's touch against cold night air, our faces turned towards one another with eyes reflecting firelight, and shared histories yet, untolder connection deeper than blood or birthright, but woven through the very fabric of dream-stitched reality. It was then that Elena reached into her satchel as if driven by an invisible thread, drawing forth a time-worn map. Its lines were not just geography's markings upon parchment. They sang to us like ancient melodies across the ages of exploration and discovery lost within these lands. This, Elena announced with gentle reverence in her voice as she traced routes that once guided caravans through desert sands, is where we stand upon history's threshold. The map unraveled a path not just across the landscape, but also into our collective consciousness, as if each contour and symbol were keys to forgotten doors of memory held in sepulchral silence until now. Our journey led us along this very trail, where time seemed as fluid an endless stream that flowed backward before it ever could move forward again. We followed the silent echoes down a path woven with riddles etched into every stone, and whisper of leaves in each bend beneath tall sentinels. The trees stood guard over secrets, their roots holding tight to stories buried deep within earth, and embrace their symphony that only hearts attuned could hear resonating through the foliage as we passed by them under twilight's tender watch. It was not long until our steps brought us before a grand old oak whose limbs sprawled out like welcoming arms, embracing stories of generations past within its gnarled bark, or custodian to countless narratives that had unfurled beneath the sun's watchful gaze. We sat in quiet contemplation at this hallowed ground where once stood a forgotten village. Our hands found solace on time-worn benches as we listened intently, eyes closed and minds transported backward through whispers of history to lives lived out right beside us, or communion with souls who had traversed the same earth. As evening unfurled her starry veil across a sky pregnant with mystery, our conversation turned inwards like mirrors reflecting reflections upon reflection, until we discovered that each soul carried within them an entire universe of experiences and memories, or personal archive as vast and intricate as any grand library. In the waning light's embrace, Elena shared stories not just about people who walked these lands before us, but also reflections on ourselves. Our narratives unfolded like petals in bloom under the watchful moon's glow that crowned our campsite with celestial adornment. We spoke of dreamers and seekers, warriors and peacemakers, all faces from history's mosaic who had left their mark upon this place just as surely as we imprinted ourselves within the continuum now stretching behind us to where it began. As our words wove through darkness like threads of silver moonbeams, I realized that though each tale was distinct or tapestry rich with individuality and unique experience, they were bound by a common thread, an unyielding quest for connection not just across distance or time, but within the very essence of human spirit. We spoke until breath turned to mist upon our lips, yet no hour felt consumed as we traversed through layers of stories that held us captive, our pilgrimage without destination, where every step was both homeward and into a sacred beyond. Each heartbeat pulsated with the lifeblood flowing beneath our feet, and when at last, under cloak of night's deepest velvet blackness punctuated by glimmers like scattered diamonds upon an embroidered cushion, our silence settled over us, not born from absence or fear, but reverence for all we had witnessed, a hallowed quietude that hummed with the untold histories as they lapped against the shore of dreams to come. It was then Alina shared another ancient chant, one whose notes were said to align hearts closer than words ever could, and once more our voices joined in hesitant harmony, until blending like channeled whispers from world's soul, a melody that transcended language and bound us together beyond the constraints of time. The bonfire flickered, as if acknowledging this sacred communion, casting its dancing shadows upon our face-faded wrinkles etched by wonder at hands guided not just through physical as night's velvet blanket enveloped us once more, and we nestled closer in our shared silence. Elena traced her fingers along my cheek with a tender familiarity that spoke of years beyond countenance. Her touch was like the soft brushstrokes on canvas painting pictures, not just within this world, but also across realms unseen and yet deeply felt through every layer of our intertwined souls. With each stroke, memories resurfaced as if they were waiting in quiet anticipation to leap forth at her touch, tales that danced between the lines of history books we had so lovingly perused together under golden suns now long past their prime on distant shores. Elena's eyes seemed closed, yet I could see them glistening with reflections not just from our C0WN bonfire, but also mirrored in depths unseen within herself. She was a vessel of stories and songs that transcended the temporal flow like rivers carving canyons through ages. Her voice would occasionally rise or lilt here, an inflection there as if to tease out secrets dormant beneath her skin's surface. "Remember when we first met," she murmured with a fondness that wrapped around my heart like the most comforting of shawls on this brisk night. And though our paths had long since diverged, here in time-locked unity between two souls who sought refuge from life's relentless pace beneath an ancient oak, "I remember," I replied softly, as if to conjure the moment itself with mere syllables of shared history that began when youthful ambition met wisdom wrought by years spent seeking horizons beyond our own doorstep. And yet it was not until we found each other once more in this tranquil haven of twinkling stars above us, wherein time seemed but a construct too delicate to bear, in the cool night air that held onto moisture like an old friend reluctant to part ways with our skin, Elena unfurled tales woven from threads more ancient than any written word could claim, her voice painting vibrant hues upon darkened waters of silence, and filling every breathless pause between us with the essence that had always bound her spirit inextricably to mine. As we journeyed through anecdotes, there was a tale she shared about two lovers separated by war's cruel hand, how they pledged never to part until their souls could find solace once more within the other's embrace or promise that time itself seemed unable or unwilling to fulfill. It resonated with us both, for in our hearts lay echoes of similar promises made and broken, but always yearned for, like refrains returning after long silence between verses known too well by seasoned singers who have performed them 1,000 times before, yet never tiresome as they are to the audience. Our shared histories were not just personal narratives or isolated incidents, for even in their uniqueness lay connections deeper than blood ties that bound us across generations and civilizations, wherein our spirits had learned languages of love spoken by countless others before Elena's grandmother became acquainted with me. The stars above seemed to listen intently as we whisper secrets into the night, knowing full well they would carry them away on their timeless tales beyond even this sacred moment, between souls entwined in mutual understanding and unspoken promises or bond not born merely of shared words, but an amalgamation of experiences that transcended mere conversation. And then came Elena's final tale before the night could claim her whole being, a story about how music, when played just so under certain skies on specific evenings throughout history, whether by hands guided solely through touch or instruments crafted from dreams and moonbeams themselves, could unite hearts separated across vast chasms of time like pebbles in quicksilver streams converging into one. It was then I understood the ancient chant Elena had shared earlier. It did not just align our heartbeats or bring harmony between two people, but served as a key to an ethereal realm where such unity could be nurtured and cherished at our place without beginning nor end, only ever deepening echoes of what we were becoming together. As the bonfire's glow flickered like tiny guardians against encroaching darkness that sought unwelcome entry upon our sanctified congress, beneath ancient boughs and twinkling firmament alike ere, silent communion, however fleeting it might have seemed to bystanders witnessing from afar in chapter Roman 14 of our night-bound narrative, wherein souls danced with shadows and whispered words to weave an unbreakable bond, Elena paused as if taking her final breath before succumbing entirely into slumber's embrace beneath the boughs. Her tale had begun by recalling a distant yet intimately familiar melody, a lullaby from their youth that now seemed like it could summon echoes of yesteryears, transcending time itself to touch hearts across epochs and realms untold. The very stars, she began with eyes reflective as the midnight sky they once used to gaze upon together before nights out underneath constellations, now only whispered legends in her mind's eye, have been silent witnesses to this lover-timeless symphony that speaks without words. Remember how we felt when our voices intertwined with the rustling leaves of those old oaks, the way every note seemed imbued with magic and ancient resonance. Yes, I replied, my heart aching in memory's tender grip as it had once done for her beneath that very canopy. The music was always a vessel for our feelings or bridge over the rivers of silence between us. My fingers absent-mindedly traced circles on Eleanor's palm before slipping into sleepy rest themselves, mirroring moonbeams and dewdrops upon petals. And it is not just any music that held such power, she continued with a gentle smile curving her lips as if recalling scenes painted in hues of nostalgia's deepest shades. It was the ancient harmonies, those lost to man but remembered by us through whispers and melodies carried on wind currents from lands where time seemed not just linearly flowed like rivers into oceans. It had been a gift passed down in secret lore among silent custodians of history, the bards, who held truths deeper than mere words could ever articulate. The very fabric of our bond is interwoven with the threads of these melodies, I whispered, my voice barely above Eleanor's own and as soothing to her ears, that felt like a gentle stream in its lullaby. Our connection transcends this world. It resonates within realms touched only by dreamers who find solace not just on earth but beyond the celestial veil. The music, she sighed, casting an arm around my shoulders as if to shield me from any dread of daylight encroaching upon our nocturnal reverie. It's a language that doesn't change even when generations fade into obscurity or lands are forgotten by the marching footsteps of history. I nodded, enraptured in Eleanor's revelation as her words wove through time and space like silken threads binding us closer. The melody we once hummed together, I murmured with a warmth kindled anew within my chest by the recounting of our shared past or tune that seemed both ancient and achingly familiar, carried secrets not even stars have been privy to until now. It was on nights like this. Eleanor's voice quivered with fervor as she spoke of how the music could summon spirits from bygone erased spirits that reveled in celebrating unions beyond mere mortality, that I first understood we were not alone. Our love was a beacon for these wandering souls seeking solace and belonging. The very trees around us, my voice joined hers now as one with the night's symphony of crickets, chirping their own ancient tunes beside our shared harmony. They too remember songs from times when humans were but children learning to speak songs that weave through time and touch every heart-seeking connection. And tonight, Eleanor whispered with a profound serenity settling upon us as if the universe itself had lent its breath for our final exchange. Tonight is one of those rare occasions when past melodies find their echoes once more in this sacred gathering. The air thrums with anticipation, a prelude to what lies beyond. I turned her words over like pearls strung together into a necklace that adorned our souls, each bead encasing memories and emotions too profound for daylight's clarity. Our love, I affirmed with conviction, steadying my resolve to hold on to these tender moments until the end of days, or perhaps even beyond them in that hallowed space where time seemed to stand still, Eleanor and I found ourselves amidst a sea of ancient oaks whose roots entwined like lovers, fingers clasped in eternal embrace. The air was thick with history. Each whispering leaf told tales older than the oldest stone monuments scattered across lands far away from where we stood, nowhere place untouchable by modernity's relentless march, preserved for us alone as our sanctuary of serenity under this shared canopy. The stars blinked above in silent applause to a night that had begun with the promise of revelations whispered through time's veil, or connection between souls and spirits born from music's transcendent power, reaching back across centuries as if plucking strings on cosmic harps. As we stood beneath this celestial canopy listening to an area that seemed meant only for us alone, the gentle rustling of leaves felt like a soft applause in return, or symphony joining our own hearts with echoes from ages past and futures unseen. Our fingers danced along Bellina's hand as we swayed to this invisible orchestra that seemed etched into every crease around us, each note an invitation for the soulful spirits longing for a touch of warmth amidst their timeless wanderings through realms forgotten. The melodies wrapped themselves like velvet garments about our bodicin ethereal shroud, where we both belonged and were outsiders to this magical moment that spanned epochs in the span of heartbeats between us two. There was a hum, almost imperceptible yet undeniably present. It seemed as though even the night breeze carried whispers on its breath, an ancient incantation for love and unity resonating through our shared space with each note that vibrated against my skin like butterfly kisses. Eleanor's eyes gleamed in moonlight, reflecting not just her beauty to behold upon this sacred ground beneath the stars' tender gaze. They mirrored an infinity of possibility and paths untrodden, or testament to all she embodied as our love story unfolded into something larger than two hearts beating together. As my own heart responded in kind, its tempo synchronized with hers through shared rhythms born from music's tender embrace, I felt an awakening within me, a realization that we were not mere mortals, but conduits for harmonies spanning lift zero E's and souls. In Eleanor's presence was a world where love transcended the boundaries of time. Our affection became threads woven into history's rich tapestry, each strand imbued with magic that defied reason, yet anchored in truth or narrative as old as existence itself, and eternally beautiful. Beneath this canopy, where heaven mingled indistinguishably with earth, we stood hand in hand, encapsulated within the heart of an enchantment so profound that it felt almost sacrilegious to partake in such a divine communion, kind only afforded by nature's most hallowed temples. Our bodies spoke languages not uttered for generations, swaying with synchronized grace, as though each movement was choreographed on the grandest of stages, set amidst an audience unseen yet deeply felt in every silent beat of our hearts and shared smile between us two. Eleanor's voice rose gently like a lullaby that soothed even the most restless spirits, her words weaving through minor melody composed not by mortal hands, but conjured from within my very soul, as she spoke of love's indomitable essence and our role in its eternal dance. The world around us faded into a muted backdrop against which only the music's pure frequencies resonated, creating an auditory sanctum where every note held divinity or place, untouched by earthly concerns or temporal constraints, as we reveled within this sacred cocoon of time-bending melodies. The very air seemed to vibrate with Eleanor's affirmation, her words a mantra encapsulating our shared belief that love was the constant force binding all existence, their beacon guiding lost souls toward reunion and solace, where they might find peace within their eternal journey. Her assurance imbued every breath we took together with purpose. It fortified my spirit against fear of impending dawn when this nocturnal refuge would inevitably fade to memory, yet I welcomed that transience as a testament to the beauty and fragility inherent within our shared sanctuary of sound was threatened by this relentless invitation to return with daylight's advance. Yet each note sung under her breath became an anthem against time itself, her declaration that love, like our melodies, transcends its physical bounds and thrives in eternity's embrace. With the final echo of Alina's affirmation lingering upon my lips, I lifted mine into her eyes as if to encapsulate every sacred syllable within this fragile vessel or token against oblivion that dared to steal away our night-bound revelry at daybreak's approach. Her gaze met mine with a depth of understanding and acceptance. We were two souls intertwined, each note played on the heartstrings resonating through shared breaths, in unison an eternal duet, sung only for one another beneath heaven's vast expanse. As Alina drew back to stand beside me once more within our secluded haven of harmony and whispers, I found myself reaching out with gentle fingers that traced the contours of her silhouette, her tactile testament to every word she had woven into my heart's tapestry. With each touch imbued by tenderness yet firm in its purposeful intention, we acknowledged our mutual awakening and prepared ourselves for sunlight's return or the possibility of an eternal slumber if love was indeed as boundless as Alina had sung it to bear a promise that even when night fell on us again, this moment would not fade from memory but instead become a permanent fixture in our existence. She whispered her assurance once more beneath the caress of morning's light. Each breath we took together filled with significance, as if carrying forth an entire universe upon its quietude cosmic dance wherein love was both spectator and choreographer, guiding lost souls back to themselves amidst life's incessant tumult. Our bodies remained motionless yet aglow within the cradle of night's final moments, a testament that even as we were but two among countless others who might seek solace or companionship, here and now was where our essences intermingled or confluence born from shared affinity for love's infinite melody. As dawn threatened the horizon with its radiant hues of orange and pink that painted promise upon a new day's canvas, we both felt it inevitable yet inviting as parting would come to pass. Our time within this sacred space had fulfilled its purpose just as surely as night gave way to sun or zero W's. Yet, even with the impending arrival of another world's bustling cacophony, Eleanor's words remained an unwavering anchor amidst life's tempestuous seas, her constant reminder that within us both dwelled a shared belief in love as transcendent and immutable. As we stood there on the precipice of separation at daybreak's first light, her affirmations fortified not only my spirit, but also became etched upon me like precious runes inscribed by celestial hands, her mantra that would carry us forth into whatever lay beyond our moonlit refuge. With a final glance shared between two beings who understood each other in ways no one else could, I knew without question the truth of Alina's assurances. Her words had become as tangible to me as flesh and blood or sacred scripture that promised eternal companionship beyond the realms we occupied. As she turned away with a parting embrace, so tender it seemed time itself might pause, I felt an overwhelming sense of gratitude for this night spent in her presence. Each memory woven into my being became as vital to me now as air upon which our shared breaths once danced towed love transcendent and enduring beyond the mere passage from one day into another. As we stepped outside, welcoming sunlight embraced us with its warmth just as the leaner's words had done before as we stepped into the golden hues of morning and left behind our moonlit refuge, our cottage nestled in a valley that had become more sanctuary than home for two souls who found solace within each other's embrace. Our journey continued with hearts lighter, yet heavy with memories. The world awakened around us as if it too sensed the significance of this new beginning. Birds began their symphony to herald our departure just before sunrise had painted its first stroke across the sky. We walked side by side down a path woven through ancient woods, where ferns whispered secrets and leaves rustled with tales from generations past, a perfect backdrop for reflections on love's depth that transcended ordinary existence. In her hand was wrapped not just our shared belongings, but also the promise of tomorrow's journey together. In my heart, a treasure trove of memories and affections blossomed anew with each step we took forward into unknown horizons, her testament to Alina's assurances that love is not merely felt within our bones, but also carved upon the very soul. The path meandered, as did life itself seemingly since time immemorial, and just like those who came before us had left imprints in its soil marks of their passages through this world's unpredictable terrain, so too have our footsteps etched a new pattern into the earth beneath Eleanor's tender gaze. This journey wasn't about distance, but discovery. For every mile we traversed was not merely physical displacement. It represented an unfolding of shared dreams and aspirations that had lain dormant within us since time immemorial, a symphony waiting to be played in full measure on the grand stage life offered. Our conversations often drifted into philosophical musings about love's true nature, its power not just as emotion but also an enabler of courage and growth. Eleanor's words had become my guiding light through which I navigated doubt to find reassurance in the constancy she provided, her lighthouse standing firm amidst life's tempestuous seas. As we approached a verdant glade that lay hidden from all but those who sought it, Elena stopped and gently placed her hand upon my arm. Our eyes met with an unspoken understanding of the profound bond forged between us here amidst nature's embracer sacred space, where time seemed suspended in a moment's breath. It was as if we were both aware that this glade held not just trees, but also timeless whispers, and upon its soil lay the imprints of countless lovers who had sought refuge beneath its boughs before us. It felt like destiny itself brought forth these grounds to testify our love's potential. We sat down on an ancient stone bench half buried by moss that seemed as old and wise as the earth, where we shared a simple meal consisting of bread Elena had baked herself. Her fingers, still stained with flour, were like artists' hands painting our affection into existence. Her laughter was warm against my cheek. It resonated in such pure joy that I could feel her essence intertwining more intimately within the fibers of who I am, just as a potter molds clay upon his wheel, slow and deliberate movements crafting something beautiful from seemingly unremarkable elements. As we finished our meal underneath an old oak tree that had watched over this glade for centuries longer than any living soul present could fathom, Elena shared a poem she wrote about us. Each word was lovingly scribed on parchment as if by divine decree or testament to the poet's heart's desires and her belief that our love should not just survive, but flourish into eternity. Her verses spoke of souls intertwining like roots beneath a shared bedrock, reaching ever upward toward heavenly bliss, while simultaneously anchoring deeply within this earther symbolic representation of the paradoxical nature of enduring love, grounded yet aspirational, embracing both change and constancy. As daylight fully claimed its reign upon us in that glade, we rose from our bench with renewed vigor for life's journey ahead, a shared pilgrimage where each horizon offered a chance to explore the depth of love's resilience amidst adversity. This world had bestowed enough trials and tribulations within these woods alone without inviting further discord into our union. Our path led us back towards civil. Elena traced her fingers along my cheek as we found ourselves once again by this ancient oak tree that seemed to whisper secrets of olden times through its gnarled branches, a silent sentinel for love's endurance in the heart of an untouched glade. The sunlight filtering down made our shadows dance on the mossy ground like spirits reveling in freedom from their earthly ticer-fitting backdrop as we continued to explore not just each other, but also the depth and breadth of a love that could transcend time itself. Our hands found one another's with an ease born out of countless shared moments. It was more than touch, no, it felt like our souls were acknowledging their interconnectedness in this sacred space between us. "I want to write down everything about you," I murmured, my voice barely louder than the rustling leaves above as we settled on a blanket underneath its verdant canopy for one of life's many quiet introspections or tableaux vivant that seemed poised eternally in this moment. The very idea made Elena's eyes twinkle with amusement, but it was her heart's. She understood the depth behind my words. Our love had become a chronicle of its own right, where each shared smile and tender caress wrote another line upon an unseen manuscript that neither time nor distance could erase. I reached into my satchel for parchment, knowing Elena would appreciate the gesture as much as I did. Her affinity towards antiquity was a known delight of mine, her fondness where every artifact echoed tales yearning to be told and retold beneath starlit skies or within these hallowed woods. The smooth paper felt like velvet between my fingers, promising it would absorb the warmth radiating from our intertwined hands as I set about crafting her words into poetry with a delicate fidelity that honored both of us equally. The verses took shape slowly, a testament to not just who we were together, but also where love could lead when nurtured by the sincerest intentions and hearts in unison, as if each syllable was an offering from my soul's altar dedicated solely to her presence. The poem spoke of our bond being stronger than roots within fertile earth, yet capable of soaring towards skies kissed with starlight, or poignant allegory for a love that could weather any storm, bask in the sun's embrace, and still find solace beneath its protective shade when needed most. It was her essence I sought to capture within this craftsmanship of words. She seemed like an ethereal muse guiding my quill with each stroke as we navigated love's intricate dance between permanence and impermanence, their duality celebrated in the timeless romance that had become our shared journey. As I recited her name within this newly birthed ode, Elena's lips curved into a smile of contentment. Each verse felt like an echo from some ancient hallowed ground where souls knew not to fear love's complexities, but instead found peace in its embracer place that our shared laughter and tender whispers had become. The poem was complete, yet it seemed only the beginning as I folded her name upon itself within a delicate origami swan for posterity's sake, knowing this would soon join others on parchment of yesteryears in my personal anthology or collection that chronicled our love's legacy. We stood up from beneath the oak as daylight began to fade into dusk. It was time once again to venture back towards civilization, carrying with us memories wrapped tenderly like a cloak against life's unpredictable wings and elements of discord that sought always to challenge our union. We had come full circle in endless loop spun from threads of love, where the glade was both beginning and ending, its secrets safe within Eleanor's heart, just as they were imprinted upon my soul through each encounter beneath this eternal oak tree's watchful eyes. As we walked hand in hand out into a world that often felt foreign to us, nowhere place, where everyday concerns and the humdrum of existence clashed with our yearning for something profoundly beautiful, Elena placed her palm against mine reassuringly. This gesture was more significant than any spoken promise. It spoke silently yet eloquently that despite life's vicissitudes, which awaited us both in the urban tapestry beyond these woods, our love would remain steadfast as an unyield as we emerged from beneath the ancient oak that had been our sanctuary and witness to countless shared dreams. Eleanor's hand in mine seemed more vital than ever touch, grounding us after years of wandering through love's labyrinth journey. The forest around us whispered with secrets we were yet to uncover as the first stars blinked into existence overhead, their glow a tender reminder that our story, too, was but part of something larger, a shared human experience stretching back eons and forward beyond what any could fathom. We continued onward through twilight's last gleaming to the first lights dotting along Main Street. As we approached civilization once more, Eleanor's eyes, so often reflective of our forest haven with its intertwining roots like veins and leaves that breathed life into each moment spent within, now they mirrored a city alive in myriad hues, or stark contrast to the natural simplicity where we had found solace together, but also reminding us how love could be both nurtured by nature's embrace and blossom amidst humanity's vibrant chaos. Elena reached into her satchel, producing a small package or gift wrapped in brown paper kissed with wax seals of forgotten flowers that once adorned the city squares before they fell out of favor for concrete and steel towers stretching towards heaven's own ambition. As I untied the ribbon binding her offering, my heart felt like it was swelling inside its chest, potent symbol of our journey together thus far. A testament that even as we moved forward into an ever-evolving world, some things remained timeless and essential to us. Within this package lay the fruits of Eleanor's laborious days spent in her studio nearby, watercolor paintings with strokes like those from our brushes on canvas when life's colors were yet vivid beneath nature's paletaire collection that spoke volumes without uttering a single word. Each piece was an embodiment of the moments shared, captured forever as if time itself had paused in reverence to us, two souls finding their way back into its flow together after long separations and trials by fire we thought would end our tale for good, but instead reforged it with greater strength than ever. We settled at a cozy cafe, tucked away on the corner of an unassuming street, where Elena ordered 2 steaming cups adorned with swirls of cream and whispering steamers, silent homage to her artistic spirit which had always found expression in such delicate details. As we sat facing each other across a table that held more years than either wanted to admit upon its surface, the soft murmur of background jazz mixed subtly into our conversation like brushstrokes on an unseen canvas. It added depth and texture, just as Eleanor's art did with wood grain. The city around us faded from sight within these walls. Another world where we could simply be. The everyday demands of life ebbed away to reveal only this moment between our entwined hands, a precious slice in time's vast banquet that had been shared under countless canopies like this one. Elena spoke fondly of memories sewn into her artwork, each piece an echo of laughter and embraces beneath the watchful ochre, testament to how love was not just felt, but lived within these moments captured in pigment on paper. Our shared history immortalized by Elena's gift. Her fingers traced circles around her cup as she spoke of an upcoming exhibition, where artwork would once again be a vessel for storytelling, our way to connect with the world beyond these woods and reacquaint ourselves with society's intricate dance between light and shadow which we had often felt alienated from. But here in this calf sanctuary, bathed in golden hour sunlight pouring through amber window panes, she knew our path forward lay not just ahead, but also within. The city's heartbeat could still pulse with the same rhythm that had guided us back to one another. As we discussed plans for her exhibition and shared dreams of future adventures towed for both, returning home at nightfall, when tiredness finally claimed its due from our journeying spirits, leaving them ready once more to sink beneath a different kind of shelter, the warm embrace of family or friends waiting with open arms. The city's ceaseless energy pulsed on in reminders that we were not alone nor forgotten. For all things fine there Eleanor and James sat in their favorite corner of the oak leaf, a quaint cafe, known for its serene ambience, where patrons often came to escape from life's relentless whirlwind just long enough to find solace within these four walls. The sun had begun to dip below the horizon as they sipped their drinks, her chamomile tea and his peppermint latte, and basked in a momentary pause before diving back into life's complexities, which today seemed like distant echoes against the gentle clinking of porcelain. Eleanor traced her fingertip along the rim of her cup as she recounted tales from their recent escapade through art galleries and museums, her shared journey that had led them to discover not only a profound appreciation for visual storytelling but also an unyielding desire to explore its depths further. The upcoming exhibition, curated by the enigmatic artist Vincent Dreyer, promised to be nothing short of mesmerizing. His works were rumored to transcend traditional forms and weave audiences directly into their narratives through vivid imagery reminiscent of our time together. As James listened intently, he felt a sense of anticipation building within him, a yearning not just for the art, but also for Eleanor's company as they navigated this new chapter in their lives, one where love and creativity became intertwined with every brushstroke on canvas. The conversation took an introspective turn when James confessed his dream of opening a studio that would serve both practical needs, such as art classes or workshops for local children, but also become a sanctuary like the Oak Leaf, where people could gather and share in the communal warmth reminiscent of their own connection. Eleanor's eyes sparkled with shared ambition. She had always believed that art held transformative power, means to bridge hearts, heal wounds, and create level 0ds within communities where people felt disconnected or lost. She agreed wholeheartedly with James' vision for a space that would foster growth through creativity and encourage individual expression as much as it celebrated shared experiences and histories captured on canvas, like their own story etched into the fabric of time, an unspoken bond born amidst laughter beneath an old oak tree. The hours passed quickly in this cozy cocoon of friendship. Each ticking second seemed to stretch further as stories from past journeys came pouring forth, layered with wisdom and shared joy that Eleanor knew only they could fully understand through the lens of their experiences, towed for a testament not just to love, but also resilience in moments both trying and tender. As twilight approached its zenith outside the Oak Leaf, painting hues of amber across an otherwise azure sky, Eleanor felt a gentle tug at her heartstrings. She realized that the path forward lay not just through their own dreams, but also in nurturing these seeds within James. Their shared history frozen on canvas and cherished between them like treasured keepsakes of an unforgettable voyage into each other's souls, were a guiding light for whatever adventures awaited them ahead, illuminating the intricate dance they performed as individuals, yet harmoniously entwined. The city outside may have pulsated with relentless energy and faces in motion that mirrored their own vibrant spirits, but here within these cafe walls, amidst whispers of past laughter echoing through time, Eleanor knew they had discovered a rhythm unique to the moment where love's melody resonated stronger than the urban symphony beyond. With each passing moment beneath this golden hour light, their spirits seemed lighter, and as nightfall drew nearer with promises of restful slumber awaiting in distant abodes that cradled families or friends who might welcome them into an embrace where they would always find safe harbor, Eleanor allowed herself to surrender fully, for though the city's heartbeat never ceased, within her and James lay a serene lake of shared dreams, one from which neither fear nor weariness could ever drain away their inherent vitality or quench thirst for discovery in life's unfolding masterpiece, a testament to an enduring love story that continued to evolve with each new horizon encountered. And so, as they rose together like the sun and made ready to leave the oak leaf, Elena knew their journey was not one of destination, but rather a perpetual voyage through shared experiences, where every encounter painted Elena and James had been drawn together by more than just their shared love for history. It was a connection that seemed to transcend time itself, as though they were eternally entwined in this dance of life across generations. On the very day when autumn leaves began whispering promises of change, Elena and James found themselves seated at the oak leaf inner quaint cafe, whose walls bore witness to countless beginnings and farewells like their own timeless tale. As they settled deeper into the velvety embrace of a plush armchair, Elena felt James' hand rest gently in hers, as if acknowledging that this moment was indeed special beyond measure, a pause within life's relentless march to mark not an end, but rather another beginning. Their journey had been one rich with shared laughter and the warmth of discovery, each chapter adding a layer upon their foundation, like sedimentary strata holding secrets deep beneath ancient earth's crust where dinosaur footprints once echoed in silent majesty. The cafe's ambience shifted subtly with dusk as daylight retreated and the golden hour began to relinquish its hold, allowing amber tones of twilight to filter through windows like liquid history seeping into their sanctuary. From world beyond these walls city's heartbeat, a constant murmur in their peripheral. Elena found comfort not just within James' presence but also amidst the timeless tales that seemed etched upon every surface, as if each book and whispered conversation were characters themselves, participants of an ongoing narrative where she was both spectator and actor. As they sipped their steaming cups, aromatic blends reminiscent of a time when coffee houses first hummed with the intellectual fervor of philosophers, writers, and thinkers who shaped thoughts that would ripple through centuries to reach Elena's era. James traced patterns on the porcelain cup, as if drawing forth from it an elixir potent enough to grant them immortality. And though mortal beings were meant only for fleeting journeys in their shared world of discovery and dreaming within the oak leaf, Elena felt a sense of timelessness that promised nothing less than the eternity. They sought a respite from life's relentless tempo to bask briefly in its quietest whispers. Within this sacred space, where every object had stories and souls, could traverse through eras as if on wings spun of moonbeams themselves, Elena allowed herself a rare indulgence ere dreaming beyond waking life that only she and James knew to exist in the spaces between heartbeats. It was here they shared silent conversations where words were unnecessary. Their eyes spoke volumes more than any dialogue ever could across centuries of human history unfolded before them, each glance imbuing with unspoken truths about love's resilience against time's relentless erosion, or testament to an enduring bond that seemed woven into the very fabric of existence. As nightfall wrapped its velvet arms around their haven and stars began threaded patterns in a sky brushed with history, Elena felt her heartbeat synchronize with those who had come before them. She was part of something larger than herself, for lineage as old as time itself, where love stood sentinel. It reminded her that while they might traverse through the epochs and ages together like voyagers upon an unending sea, their essence remained anchored to this singular moment between two souls who understood each other without need for language beyond a glance or touch, of connection as ancient as history itself, yet freshly minted in every shared breath. Their parting was always poetic. It felt like the closing of one volume on an infinite library, and simultaneously its opening to unexplored volumes where new tales awaited their footprints amidst dusk motes dancing lazily in a beam of moonlight that slipped through the oak leaf's windows. But tonight was different. It felt like the enduring beginning they both so deeply craved, as Elena knew with James, and still warm against her own chilled fingers after their embrace had released them from this temporal sanctuary, a commitment to one another that transcended time and space, with an intimacy born of shared histories whispered through the ages, where love was both hero and villain, muse and mentor. Elena allowed herself a single tear for sheer gratitude as they rose together like daylight itself overtaking night. Elena clutched the silver locket James had found nestled within its ancestral trunk, or chain forged by hand with links intertwined as fingers entangling through lifetimes past. The necklace hummed a melody that resonated in her chest, an echo of Elena's great-great-grandmother's voice urging them forward to weave their tale into the fabric of history. "Come, James whispered as he stepped closer beside his beloved and took hold of one end of her arm, his fingers deftly tracing patterns in air, a silent promise that wove between breaths like threads invisible but palpable. "Let's explore these stories together." His gaze was tender yet fierce. An unspoken pact glittered within its depths as the moon claimed dominion over their shared skyline. Elena nodded, knowing that tonight would mark a rite of passage for the man, ancient ceremony to honor bonds transcending fleeting years and ephemeral moments. As she unfastened her locket around her neck, the gleaming pendant caught James' eye. He drew nearer with reverence, as if it were an artifact imbued with sacred power only they could wield now together. Their hands met over a mahogany table set for two upon which lay parchment and quill, a relic of times when words birthed worlds within the confines of ink-stained pages, stories that danced under candlelight before being kissed by flame. It was here they would begin to chronicle their own journey as co-authors of a love story penned with every heartbeat and whispered through dreams unspooled at night's first light. The room around them held the stillness of anticipation, each ticking second suspending Elena in an embrace where past met future, a meeting place for memories as old as love itself to lay their course into being once more. The air between her and James seemed imbued with a magic that transcended time. Every touch was laden with the weight of shared histories. Each glance carried forward echoes from ancestors whose whispers guided them along this path they had chosen together under moonlight's watchful eye. "Let us begin," James said softly as he brushed a lock behind Eleanor's ear, and his voice melted into her consciousness like warmth on skin with the dawn of our love. His words were an invocation to memories where they had been but two souls amidst vast Caesar beginning that would now unfold as their journey's narrative. Elena found herself tracing a finger along parchment edges. She felt her pulse synchronize with the rhythmic scratch of quill on paper, an orchestra conductor for harmonies only they could compose, towed for a symphony where notes played from within their very hearts and flowed through fingertips. "We are but wayfarers," James mused aloud as he sat beside her now, the timbre of his voice a calming balm that eased Eleanor's contemplative soul. "Travelers on an unending voyage, where our souls navigate through epochs like stars, guiding mariners home." His armored heart beat in cadence with hers, a rhythm composed for two. She glanced up at him and felt the world narrow to a point between them. Time itself seemed irrelevant as their shared histories wove into one, intertwining pasts that stretched backward like roots seeking sustenance from bygone eras while reaching forward with tendrils of aspiration for tomorrow's sun. The locket around Eleanor's neck felt heavier somehow, a physical manifestation of their commitment to journey through life, together and apart in the span between heartbeats where love resided as a constant companion on either shore. "The threads we tie today will be woven into tapestries for future generations," James spoke with reverie. The following is a continuation of their shared tale or chapter, in which they find themselves once more at an impasse, but also discovering new paths to tread together. Elena and James sat beneath the ancient oak that had witnessed countless stories before them. Its sprawling branches offered solace, while its roots held fast against time's relentless march, a perfect setting for reflection on their shared journey so far, as well as contemplation of what lay ahead in this unending voyage they now embarked upon together. Eleanor traced the initials carved into her locket's surface by a suitor from an era long gone. It was James. Turned to glance at his timepiece, its hands steadily advancing as if chasing after them with relentless determination, a silent reminder that every second spent together brought another chapter in their lives closer. They spoke of the histories they loved most dearly, Eleanor's passion for Renaissance art and James' fascination with medieval explorations, each tale enriching not only her own understanding but also providing a kaleidoscope through which to view their world, or mosaic, where every shard was imbued with the hues of bygone days. As they exchanged stories and laughter between sips from steaming cups, Eleanor confessed how she sometimes felt like an outsider in her own time, a traveler seeking solace on distant horizons. Or sentiment echoed within James as he voiced his yearning to feel closer to the essence of history that had shaped their hearts. Amidst conversation and companionship beneath the oak's watchful eyes, they found comfort in knowing that while each era would fade into dusty pages, for future seekers of wisdom, love's mark on them was eternal, or legacy sewn from threads woven with care through time itself. This realization set their spirits free to explore new landscapes uncharted and histories yet written without fear or hesitation. They were no longer just voyagers, but co-creators of an odyssey that transcended the very fabric of a racer dance choreographed with precision, guided by a shared heartbeat. Eleanor gazed upon James as if seeing him for the first time, through eyes unclouded. He was no longer just her companion, but also kindred spirit and anchor in an ocean where waves threatened to pull them apart, a testament that their love could navigate storms of change yet emerge steadfast. Their journey continued with renewed vigor as they ventured forth into dusk, leaving the oak behind like a lighthouse guiding weary travelers homeward. For in each other's embrace lay not just solace, but also an unspoken promise to carry forward their shared histories and aspirations and anchor amidst time's tide. And so, as twilight embraced the world around them with its gentle hues of orange and purple, Elena and James wanderlust hand in hand through fields where history whispered secrets beneath ancient ruins that stood like silent sentinels over lost civilizations. Their laughter rang out clear as they followed a trail left by explorers long gone, a path of discovery leading them to unveil the mysteries hidden within folds and stones, tales waiting for curious souls brave enough to listen with hearts, ears eagerly straining against time's veils. Together, hand in hand, under a sky ablaze with stars that had shone down upon empires now but memoriously walked onward through the remnants of days when humanity reached for wonders beyond their grasp, they ventured forth not just as observers within history's embrace, but participants eager to contribute new threads into its ever-expanding tapestry. As night deepened and stars twinkled knowingly in approval above them, Elena felt the pull of sleep beckon her body, yearning for rest beneath her partner's tender touch, while a thousand stories danced like fireflies around their dreamscapes. She surrendered to this earthly need with gratitude that James shared both wakefulness and repose. Inside Eleanor's mind, time folded upon itself, as if pages of her own storybook had turned backward, reminiscences flowing through her thoughts like sweet nectar on a warm summer's eve. She found comfort in the knowledge that every ending was but an overture to new beginnings. James, too, closed his eyes and let memories of shared laugh. James and Eleanor found themselves in a secluded grove within an ancient forest where history whispered secrets through every leaf, bark, and stone they touched. The air carried echoes of past explorers who once trod this very path or trail left by souls long gone, but whose essence lingered like morning mist over the woods. Their journey had led them to a clearing where time seemed almost tangible. It wrapped around their fingers, tickling and teasing as though trying to unveil its hidden mysteries for themselves alone. This was no ordinary forest. It held stories of civilizations risen on ambition's wings that soared too close to the sun before plummeting into time's abyssal depths. Elena and James found a weathered stone bench beneath an ancient oak, its leaves rustling tales older than their own lineage, as they settled down beside each other. Elena placed her hand on top of James, with the delicate trust only kindred spirits shared, her silent promise to guard one another through life's endless chapters and beyond. As twilight deepened, a gentle breeze carried them away from worldly concerns as they lay back against the mossy ground that cushioned their dreaming forms like soft pillows of emerald velvet. Their breath merged with each other's in quiet synchronization, two hearts beating to the rhythm of shared experiences and unspoken emotions. Her duet played out under a sky alight with constellations, timeless sentinels that had watched over countless such moments before them. In their sleeping embrace, Eleanor's mind wandered through corridors lined with echoes of her ancestry. Each memory was imbued with the warmth and wisdom passed down like treasured heirlooms that time could not tarnish nor erode. She felt a profound gratitude for these roots, which had nourished her growth into who she now became, a woman shaped by history's embrace, but also reaching forward with dreams of new leggers zero ns to carve in the present day. Jane's thoughts echoed Eleanor's as they danced through recollections that were both personal and shared, a tapestry interwoven from laughter-filled nights under foreign stars, where language barriers crumbled at their smiles. These precious moments resided in the sanctum of his heart like priceless gems, and though he lay beside her now still as stone figures that adorned this sacred grove, within him surged a vitality that flowed from every joyous encounter and tender sorrow, or testament to life's duality woven into the very essence of being human. As night deepened its hold around them, like velvet drapes drawn across sunset's last embers, they were both enveloped by a serenity that transcended worldly concerns or peace found in accepting life's ebb and flow as one with the changing seasons of an eternal forest. In this hallowed clearing, where nature itself seemed to hold its breath in reverence for their love's continuance, Elinor felt a sense of completeness that was both solitary yet profoundly shared, a duality embodied by James at her side and the very world around them conspiring with whispers of eternity. And as they surrendered to sleep's tender invitation beneath an endless canopy, Elinor's thoughts turned towards tomorrow, where new adventures awaited her promise that even when waking from dreams into reality, the journey was far from over. It simply shifted shape like shadows cast by wandering sunbeams. For in this sacred place of ancient trees and whispering winds, they had discovered not just love, but a shared purpose to treasure within history's embracer commitment that transcended time as surely as the stars themselves would continue their silent vigil overhead through dawn's first light or beyond into dusk. Their final thoughts drifted towards promises yet unspoken, adventures not just awaiting but calling to them with a resonance deep within her, duet of aspirations that promised more than mere dreamt possibilities. They signified hopeful tomorrows woven together by the threadbare tapestry of their intertwined lives. And so as sleep claimed Elinor and James, it was not an end, but rather a resting point upon which to rise once again, or gentle pause in life's grand story wherein loveth pages were continually being written under heaven's watchful gaze that had bore Elinor and James had found solace in each other's company within the embrace of ancient woods, where time seemed to stretch into infinity, leaving them with a tender peace that only nature could provide on such balmy summer nights as this one. As Elinor closed her eyes against the gentle kisses of dew-laden air and nestled closer beside James under his warmth, she felt their love resonate deeply within its very core, a sacred covenant forged in whispers among these eternal guardians of history. Their journey together was not just a tale spun from the yarn of youthful passion, but an odyssey that wove through epochs and ages, with each step taking them closer to understanding their place within this grand tapestry, a shared purpose transcending mere affection into something as enduring as time itself. And so it was in the hushed reverence for life's perpetual dance they surrendered themselves wholeheartedly to sleep's embrace, each breath a soft sigh that whispered promises of wondrous tomorrows yet unclaimed by daylight or evening shadows alike. The stars above bore silent witness, those celestial sentinels, steadfast in their vigil as they drifted into the realm beyond conscious thought and dreamt fantasies, where only hearts dare to wander freely under moon's watchful eye. Dawn would soon break with its rosy fingers upon dew-drenched blades of grass, birdsong heralding a new day brimming with unexplored horizons yet beckoned for Elena and James as siren calls to their adventurous spirits, or symphony composed by the very essence that is hope itself. As they embarked upon this journey of discovery, each sunrise served not merely as another day, but a chance to rewrite history's ever-unfolding story with threads spun from shared dreams and aspirations. Their love was an anthem echoing through the ages, or testament that even in times where darkness seemed imminent or unavoidable, light could still be found within. Within these sacred confines of ancient trees standing as monuments to eons past lay Elinor and James' intertwined souls on an eternal quest for understanding beyond the reaches of their own finite existence, their pilgrimage through time where every heartbeat was synchronized with nature's unwavering rhythm, allowing them moments glimpsed into realms once only visited by myth, now within reach. Their love story had become an echo that resonated far beyond the physicality of its barrister melody, carried forth on zephyrs traversing continents and oceans, as if their passion could transcend even the confines of these earthly bounds, where they presently lay intertwined amidst whispered secrets shared only between lovers who knew no separation. Their final thoughts, before surrendering to sleep's tender embrace, were not simply dreamt possibilities, but a duet of aspirations that sang clear within their hearts, a harmonious promise wherein every hopeful tomorrow was woven together by the golden threads spun from intertwined lives, promising adventures yet unclaimed and stories still to be told. And thus as sleep claimed Elinor and James upon a night painted with twilight hues that whispered of eternity itself, her gentle pause in life's grand story, where love's pages were continually being written beneath heaven's watchful gaze, the essence of their journey would carry forth into tomorrow. For even as they embraced rest within these woods cradled by time immemorial and guardians eternal, Eleanor knew her spirit remained indestructible, a beacon that guided not only herself but James onward towards ever more wondrous landscapes where love could bloom anew with each rising sun. In the quietude of their shared dreamscape, beneath a canopy stretching far beyond mortal ken, Elena and James found solace or peace that only transcended time itself. For in these woods, where shadows played among ancient boughs as if to mimic life's unpredictable course through seasons of growth and fall, here the echoes of their laughter seemed not just remnants but living testaments whispered by leaves, rustling with secrets known only between them, sharing tales that danced on windsong or melody composed for a love as timeless as these woods themselves, where all could sense it was here and now. Eleanor's dreaming heart knew the promise of endless tomorrows. She, Eleanor, her thoughts meandering like the nearby brook that had learned its course long before they arrived here, found comfort in knowing James's presence was not just a companionship, but an eternal pact made beneath this very canopy of stars, her shared destiny forged from love and adventure. His fingers brushed hers gently as he murmured words meant to soothe her soul into tranquility. His touch, like the steady rhythm of waves upon distant shores, spoke volumes in their silent language that needed no translation under the watchful eyes of constellations who had witnessed countless such unions. As night deepened and stars began to twinkle with more vigor against the indigo sky, or celestial chorus serenading them into slumber, Elena closed her eyes for a moment longer as she recalled their journey's beginning, when they first met under the same elm tree. James had been there then too. His heart and spirit were not unlike today's reflection of himself, or fire within that refused to be extinguished by time or trials, always seeking Eleanor for warmth in return through kindness and laughter shared beneath this very bough's shade. The forest seemed almost sentient tonight. The wind carried with it whispers of encouragement, as if urging them forward onward to whatever awaited beyond tomorrow's sunrise, or promise that their love story was still being penned, one day at a time within this timeless sanctuary. With each rustle of leaves and sighing breeze through the branches overhead like caress upon her cheek, Eleanor felt as if she could stretch beyond tomorrow's dawn into an infinity where love knew no bounds or endings, but only new begins to be discovered beneath this ever-watchful sky. And so James continued his gentle lullaby, a melody born from the depth of their shared moments, each note a brushstroke painting hues across Eleanor's mind that transcended reality and painted vistas beyond her wildest dreams. They were not simply sharing this bed, but also these endless horizons together. He knew without need for words how to lead them into the realm of sleep, on hand beneath one arm, his other cradling hers as if their bodies had been made alike from love's first touch through countless sunsets and dawnings since they'd pledged eternal fidelity here among these ancient sentinels. Eleanor felt the weight of years dissolve into nothingness within his embrace, finding refuge in an innocence that time could not tarnish, an unspoiled essence where love remained pure and true to its form as it had been when they were but children playing here among these woods. As if guided by their shared breaths, the pair found solace within each other's arms until sleep's call grew too loud for resistance. Eleanor yielded her will in surrendering unto James, her heart beating a harmonious echo to his own as he nestled closer beneath an embrace that promised comfort and protection against whatever trials might come. The woods whispered their secrets through the rustling of leaves, offering tales spun from countless seasons past, yet still relevant in Eleanor's heart. Here was a love story interwoven with threads pulled not just by two souls, but also woven into every living thing that called Eldritch Wood home. James felt this too, or part of them, as he lay beside her, his thoughts blending seamlessly with the essence of their journey and dreamscape beneath these trees, where stories were sown like seedlings in fertile soil to bloom anew each day upon returning from ventures afar, or times when they might not meet again until next time. As sleep finally claimed them, Eleanor's heart danced with the lightness of being unburdened by life's ever-turning wheel, or respite found only in this sacred place where love reigned supreme, and James awoke with Eleanor's warmth still lingering close to his own skin, her breath like cool water, soothing him back from dreaming into wakefulness in this place he had come to regard as more home than any other the Eldritch Wood. He found himself lying beside the gentlewoman whose touch alone seemed enough of a promise that even without words they understood each other's presence was meant for comfort, not merely physical but soul-deep. The woods were their sanctuary. Since Eleanor and he had first met here in this very glade, where children might have once played amidst the emerald expanse of leaves whispering secrets to those who would listen, it wasn't just that they found solace together, it was as if these ancient trees were privy to their stories, holding them within rings hidden beneath bark-encased memories and dreams yet unspoken, but deeply felt in the shared heartbeat pulsing below its verdant canopy. Today's dawn ushered a silence broken only by nature itself, her crisp rustling that carried tales of generations, love lost and found beneath this same sky they had watched countless mornings bloom into daylight together in their shared repose among these sentinel trees. And here he was now, wrapped not just within Eleanor's arms, but also the embrace offered by Eldritch Wood itself, her place where his heart found rest and courage to face whatever lay beyond its borders, without fear of losing what they had already cultivated in their short time together amidst these ancient whispers. Elena stirred beside him, her movements as tender as the first light that graced this sacred grove with hues no painter could hope to capture. He felt a deep gratitude for such moments. To be cradled by another's strength and warmth in these woods was not just comfort, but affirmation of life itself. Together they had shared laughter like bubbles ascending through water before reaching the surface only to burst with joy upon release. Together their breathing seemed synchronized, as if orchestrated for harmony rather than merely two beings sharing air space, an unconscious testament perhaps that fate or mere coincidence conspired in bringing them here. As they lay, Eleanor's touch began to guide him back into the realm of sleep. With each gentle caress and whispered word she spoke directly unto his heart. Her voice was calm but filled with a strength he had come to recognize as intrinsic, a confidence born not from experience or necessity but something far more ethereal, a love that transcended mere affection, reaching into the very essence of their beings like roots searching for sustenance in fertile earth beneath them, where stories blossomed and withered anew each day upon returning after ventures afar. Sometimes they would meet here, as often or not at all until next time. Today was no different. The trees stood witness to their continued journey, offering silent blessings even though none were spoken aloud between them, save for when Eleanor's lips curved in a tender smile that spoke volumes of acceptance and lover's sanctuary within itself, where they could be vulnerable without fearing judgment or loss. He felt the first stirrings of sleep like dew upon his skin, easing into its embrace as Eleanor's presence grew softly distant with each exhalation. He surrendered to this natural rhythm just as she had done years before, when her heart found resonance in his own, a symphony conducted by the unspoken words of their souls. The world beyond Eldritch Wood existed, but for now they were entwined within these sacred grounds where time seemed suspended and love reigned supreme like a sovereign entity that knew no bounds or limitations, save only those self-imposed barriers erected from fear's untold or place of refuge against the trials of existence. And as sleep's call grew too loud, he allowed himself to drift away into dreams where possibilities danced like fireflies in twilight skies. Eleanor's essence lingered close even beyond conscious thought until morning light peeked above the horizon with promise of another day wrapped gently within Eldritch Wood's enigmatic embrace, or place they called home, where stories were sown like seedlings in fertile soil to bloom anew each time their paths might cross or diverge, yet always tethering them back together amidst the whispers of ancient trees. In this sacred grove beneath a sky that held no secrets from those who chose its beauty over blind curiosity, a place, Eleanor's last sigh was a whisper lost in Eldritch Wood, her form blurred into shadow as time slipped through their fingers like threads of silk too delicate to hold onto for long. With each exhalation he felt the gentle fading touch against his cheek, a warmth seeping away with every breath drawn back from this verdant sanctuary they called home. The world beyond its borders remained vibrant and teeming with life's ebbs and flows. Yet in these sacred grounds where time seemed to fold upon itself, their essences felt more intertwined than ever before, a silent symphony conducted by the unspoken words of their souls. The trials that lay beyond Eldritch Wood had waged war against his being for years. Fears and worries were like shackles around his heart, imposed barriers he could no longer bear to carry alone, a place where love was a sovereign entity reigning supreme. And as sleep's call grew too loud in this moment of surrender, it became the vessel through which their souls voyaged beyond conscious thought into realms unbound by earthly constraints. Eleanor's essence lingered close even after her physical form ceased to exist within waking hours, her place they called home where stories were sown like seedlings in fertile soil. Each night, as he surrendered himself wholly unto sleep's embrace and the dreamscapes of possibility that danced before him with fireflies, luminescence against a twilight sky, his heart ached for her return, when she was gone too long in the daylight world to emerge into this haven once more, a place where stories grew like seedlings. Theirs were tales rich and deep as Eldritch Wood itself, one of love's unyielding persistence against life's trials, a testament etched within these enigmatic groves whose secrets lay only for those willing to look beyond the beauty without veering into blind curiosity. In this sacred place beneath an omniscient sky, a refuge that held no secrets from him as he chose its splendor over relentless wonder, and seeking answers too profound even for mortal minds, their connection continued, unbroken by distance or the mundane realities of existence. He knew it wasn't merely a matter of proximity to her spirit here in Eldritch Wood. Their souls were entwined as deeply as roots within fertile earth, and that bond was impervious to time's erosive flow or timeless refuge against life's relentless trials. As the moon hung high with silvered promises, he allowed his dream self to traverse through nighttime meadows where their love could flourish and knew each day's end or beginning. It was a sacred grove of renewal beneath starlit canopies that shielded them from life's harsher elements. Here in Eldritch Wood they found solace, a sanctuary for when the heart ached too deeply to bear without her presence at his side once more within this world's fragile reality, where stories bloomed and withered like leaves that fell each autumn from an ancient oak's outstretched limbs. The next time they might cross paths, or diverging even in separation, Eldritch Wood remained a constant for their spirits to meet again whenever the stars aligned on such fateful nights, and as dawn's tender light peeked above the horizon with promise of another day wrapped gently within its embrace. It was here amongst ancient trees, whose whispers carried wisdom from ages past, where stories were sown like seedlings in fertile soil to bloom a more place, they called home for a love that knew no bounds, save only those self-imposed barriers erected by fears untold. And it is within this very essence of Eldritch Wood's embrace where the next chapter unfolds in their enduring saga, as Eleanor's spirit continues to watch over him from realms beyond. He would awaken each morning greeted by her smile on his lips and a tender kiss upon weather-beaten cheeks, a reminder of love that could not be stolen or hidden, even beneath the guise of sleep's eternal domain. For within Eldritch Wood's embrace he had discovered an unspoken understanding with Eleanor. Their hearts spoke in whispers, and shared dreamscapes were a testament to this bond or love that was as much about finding sanctuary amidst the wild